What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person of the internet each week to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for everybody who has subscribed on iTunes, who has left a review, who has tweeted me to want to be on the show. I greatly appreciate all your guys' support. Without your support, the show wouldn't be what it is. So, again, thank you guys so much. This week, we have my guest. His name is Mike Bachmann. You may know him from the Drunks and Dragons podcast. And if you're checking this podcast out because of that, thank you. Hopefully you stick around. I've known Mike since about 2004, 2005-ish. So we get into how he grew up and what got him started, and also our time working at Game Crazy together. Again, if you guys want to be on an episode of the show, go ahead and send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 or at the Twitter podcast, which is at GUG Podcast. Without further ado, let's get started with Mike Bachmann. So, Mike, I've known you for how long? Like since 2005?
Yeah. Roughly.
Something like that.
More or less.
Do you remember how we met?
Yes. Yeah, I needed a job because I had one and then I lost it. I was a lifeguard. And so I came into to Game Crazy where you worked looking hella fine. Because I had that beach body, as you recall.
I agree. I remember that.
Yeah, and so when I got in there, I was wearing a pink tie to my interview, and I got the job because I'm kind of awesome. And then
so humble.
Yeah, and then I worked there. And the first day you made me organize the PS1 games.
Because that was the shittiest part of the job.
It was the shittiest part of the job. However, I came up with that awesome, innovative idea of zip tying the racks to separate the games.
I do remember that. Mm-hmm. That was innovative. I'm surprised Game Crazy didn't just catch on to that and just take it nationwide.
Well, it's because when you zip tie them, it leaves jagged, sharp edges on the shelves that people would scrape themselves on. But
yeah, I remember a couple bloody knuckles. But again, that's life. There's just random things that'll cut you out in life. You just got to be careful. You got to step your game up. I remember you coming in before the job interview looking for Skies of Arcadia for Dreamcast.
Yes.
That gem. Because you were all about your Dreamcast.
No, it wasn't Skies of Arcadia. I give a shit about that game. It was Record of Lodoss War. It was even
That's
worse.
What it was.
Even worse. I still have that, by the way. It was disc only. I didn't get a case for it.
Yeah, that was before. Yeah, I remember that you would come and look at our pathetic Dreamcast section, which had, 30 games maybe? And all of them were NFL 2K.
But, yeah, new ones would come in every now and then. I got the Dreamcast, and I was like, that was the first system that I got after, after my Super Nintendo. I had a Super Nintendo, and then I graduated high school and bought a Dreamcast. That's my life. Is that the whole show, or are we done now?
Yeah, we can just turn it off now. What was that? Was the Super your first console?
Yeah.
Or you ever had an NES?
No. I had a friend who had an NES. Do you want to know, this is going to be the weirdest fucking, probably the I'm going to sound the stupidest of any of your guests, and I guarantee it.
Perfect. That's how I've told them all about you.
Before I knew what video games were, I was over at, my parents were into, or my sister and my mom, they were into horses, and we were over at somebody's house that was also, they had a whole horse world. I don't know what the fuck. But they were like, hey, do you want to go inside and play Nintendo? And I was like, what the fuck is that? I don't know. I'm like, is that a Frisbee? So we went inside, and I was just like, I kept pointing at the stupidest shit. I don't know why I remember this vividly, but I kept pointing at the stupidest shit, being like, is that the Nintendo? And, do you know how some people, they have the floor vents where their air conditioning comes out and they put the little plastic things on top of them to direct the air?
Correct.
I specifically remember pointing at one of those and being like, is that the Nintendo? Because I'd never seen one of those. I don't know.
Damn it, Mike.
Dude, I didn't know it was a video. I didn't know what a video game was. I didn't know that they were showing me a video game. I just thought it was like a toy, and I was like, that thing looks cool. Can I just play with that? Like, can we skip the thing that you're taking me to see? Like,
you seem so excited for it. I thought that was it. That's as much excitement as I could think of. Redirected air, cold air at that. Well,
and I like to think about what might have been if they had, said, if they'd said yes, you can just play with that. Maybe today I'd be an HVAC engineer.
Absolutely. And you'd still have a very successful podcast in HVAC.
Yes, it would just be about heating and air conditioning.
Talking about them new models that are out and them new taping techniques, right?
I'm a Carrier man myself, but I know a few people will go Amana. I don't really agree with that decision, but teach his own.
All right, so you played NES. Like, when they actually told you, no, dummy, this is what it is, do you remember, like, the first game you remember playing back then?
It was Mario Brothers.
Of course.
Yeah, and it wasn't the first game that I'd played, because we had a Tandy 1000, like, computer.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're talking to a stupid person when it comes to computer. I'm like, what are those? I don't know what those are.
They're great. But it was it was just a DOS machine, basically, and we had ZZT, which was, it's completely made out of ASCII characters. You play like a little smiley dude, and you can shoot like bullets in every direction.
Nice.
This was made by a little company called Epic Mega Games.
Great name. That should have stuck.
Which ended up being Epic.
They just changed into Epic. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that Rare Replay collection to come out on Xbox One soon.
Like all that old like Tim Sweeney stuff came from that era, like Jill of the Jungle and like. Yeah, dude, look up their old shit. It's pretty good.
I'll find an emulator and just play them today. That's what I'll do. I'm sure there's some sort of emulator and ROM for that, right? Somewhere it's the internet.
It's called DOS. Like you don't need an emulator. Like for something that's already
how stupid I am, Mike.
You can get DOSBox and run that shit.
Yeah, I should just do that and everything. So you played an NES, played Mario Brothers. You never got an NES. What made you? Were you just that happy with Mario and like excited about it to want to get a Super?
Yeah, I was a very strong Mario advocate.
Yeah,
we had.
Was he your buddy?
My sister dated this dude who is now my brother-in-law. But he used to bring his Nintendo over, and like it was that kind of thing where it's like, man, I wouldn't tell him this, but like his value, like the only worth that he held to me at that age was his Nintendo and his like ability to bring that shit over. So like that, when he'd bring that over, we played mostly like Mario 3 and Big Nose the Caveman.
That's an interesting one.
that shit that was a gold cartridge. So I know all you guys are like, man, Legend of Zelda gold cartridge, and you're like, I had Ocarina of Time with the gold cartridge. It's like, no, I had Big Nose the Caveman with the gold cartridge. That was my holy grail.
That's what's up. You gotta remember the gold carts. Did it start with that? I wonder if that came out and then Zelda's like, that's a cool idea. Or was it one of those like, yeah, maybe we should do that.
If I had to guess, so Big Nose the Caveman, the only motivation for this character is that he's like, man, it's breakfast time and I gotta eat. So it shows him just kind of thinking about eggs, and then he sees a pterodactyl fly overhead, and he looks up at that and he's like, that thing's got eggs, and he's chasing it down, and you're slaughtering dinosaurs with a club on your quest to chase down this pterodactyl and get his eggs.
Dude, that was pretty much every game back in the day. You always had your side scrolling like. And of course, the story mode. There was the back of the box that we tried to figure out what the games meant, but yeah, there was no internet, there was no cutscenes, there was no any magazine to tell you this is the story. You kind of looked at the box art and went, yeah, I guess that's it. I guess this is what we're doing in the game.
Oh, this was a cutscene. This is a cutscene at the beginning of the game where he walks
that was
out of his
fancy.
cave, he sees the pterodactyl, and then he's like, oh shit, and he takes off running, and then it goes right into it.
I bet that game was $100 because of that cutscene. I bet that game was $100 because of the gold cart and the cutscene, and it had 2 megabits of data instead of 1 or some ridiculous shit. Like, that's what kids don't understand today is like games varied in prices. There was no set price. It was always different depending on the game you chose. So,
oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, you adjust that for inflation. Like Chrono Trigger was $80, and people get upset that like And like a cartridge game on the Switch costs generally $10 more than it costs on another platform, and people are like, Nintendo tax, and I'm like, motherfucker, try buying cartridges. Like, you clearly don't remember.
Yeah, like, especially, I remember you would see the Best Buy ad, and of course, the popular games ended up being like Mortal Kombat. Just why was it more expensive? Because it was Mortal Kombat. That's why. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you had the games that Star Fox that had the FX chip, or got to pay that extra for that. So I remember seeing an old Toys R Us flyer, and somebody was selling Clay Fighter 63 and whatever it was for like, I think it was like $80 or $90. And I was just like, Jesus, who regrets that? Probably everybody that bought that, because that's an insane price.
Yeah. No, God, Clay Fighters, one time we rented that shit. My sister rented it this is after we got our Super Nintendo. And, this is when I was like young enough to just not have like control over any aspect of my life. So when somebody else rents a game for me, I'm like, yes. And then I knew she was going to have to take it back, but I wanted to play it still. So I hid it.
Oh no. The dreaded late fees to come.
Yeah, well, and I didn't understand that concept even. I was an idiot.
Well, of course you thought an air vent was a Nintendo.
Yeah, it didn't last long. She went outside to do something, and I pulled out from under the couch, and I was playing it, and she came back in and saw me playing it, and the jig was up. So I got maybe 10 minutes extra playtime out of it.
Was she actually like hunting it down? Was she trying to find it? Like, where did this go? And you're just sitting there like, ha ha ha. Yeah. Just maniacally rubbing your hands, and she's like, what are you doing?
That wasn't even my worst video game ruse.
Oh my God.
Oh man, have you ever seen Ocean's 11? This is this is very similar.
It is. Did you have 10 other people helping you?
No.
Okay.
This is Ocean's 1.
Okay, Ocean's 1.
Yeah. So you remember Leif, right?
Yes, of course I do.
Boy Leif. Yeah. So he in the 5th grade let me borrow Super Metroid.
Oh.
And so I had it, and I brought it to school with me, and I don't know why. I was playing it at home, and then I brought it to school with me, and I think it was just because I wanted to feel cool.
That was a status symbol.
Right. And then my math teacher took it from me, because he was just like, you shouldn't have this in school. And he takes the game from me and puts it in the closet. Well, the game's not mine. And I'm just like, well, shit, what am I going to do about this? And this dude was also a bus driver. He was a math teacher, and he also drove the bus. So he would get to school after I did, because he had a further route. And so what I ended up doing was just going, I knew the cabinet he put it in, and so after he'd leave first too, because it's
the bus driver and everything, right? He's got
right. The route at the end of the day mirrors the route at the beginning, so he'd leave before I came, and or before I left, and get there after I came. So he would leave. And then before my bus would leave, I would go back into his classroom, pull it out of the cabinet. The next day, I'd come back in, return it to the cabinet after I was, because I didn't want him to know that I'd taken it.
So you'd take it home to play it, and then you'd have to get back in time to go put it back to make sure that he didn't know that you just snatched it back?
Right, because in my head, the best outcome is that this dude is gonna he's gonna return it to me legitimately at some point. And
correct.
So after it got to the point where he's like, no, I'm gonna give it back to you at the end of the year, I was just like, what the fuck is the matter with you, dude?
He obviously was evil.
Well, and it was 5th grade. There's a possibility that there's a big shitty thing that I did that I'm leaving out of this story because I don't remember it.
Because that would make you look terrible. God forbid.
Well, no, I don't.
You gotta look like an innocent person. Please, sir, why are you taking my game? I did nothing wrong.
If I was a piece of shit, I'd straight up tell you. It's just I don't remember. So what it ended up coming down to was I was like, okay, this is just going to go on forever, and it's just exhausting living.
How long did you do it for?
For a couple weeks.
Oh my God!
Man,
okay.
I can't handle this. And so, I just basically I took it home, and the next day I didn't return it. And he never asked about it. And then it gets to the end of the school year, and I've just been dreading this, because I've been dreading him just being like, yeah, I'm not, what happened? I know you came in the classroom and took it. I don't know how he would know, but I was just like, man, he's gonna find out. So at the end of the year, to put the cherry on the lie, I came to him and I asked for it.
What? Why would you do that?
Because if I was the one that took it, why would I come to him and ask for it?
You're so smart, Mike. I'm so stupid. Continue.
I was playing fucking mind games with my 5th grade teacher. And he's like,
you are Ocean's 11. You're correct. You thought 7 steps ahead. I'm all like, why would you do that? I don't understand. But no, you knew what was up. You're like, man, this will make me look not guilty. I got this.
Dude, I right down to the guard rotations. Like I knew when somebody was going to get there.
You had times, you had like your stakeout. The buddy's like, I'll give you the sheet. It's got all the times. Make sure you get in and out before this thing. Also, you got cameras and trip sensors. Make sure you don't hit those either. That's how you.
Like, why do I need this sheet? It just says 7:30 a.m. every day.
He wanted to feel important, man. You had to have somebody else to help you out, man.
You don't need Excel to do this, dude.
Yeah, he sent you that spreadsheet.
So yeah,
So you asked him for it.
He's like, well, I guess it's gone. And now, was like, whatever. And I'm just like, man, if it really was gone, I'd be pretty mad at you right now.
Yeah, if it was not me who actually snatched it out of your desk without your knowledge or your cabinet. Oh my God.
In retrospect, it's possible that he just knew the whole time. Like, when you think about it, it's like, if he was like, yeah, it was like, well, I guess it's gone. Like, maybe he'd be a little more concerned if he thought somebody actually stole it, but he probably just knew what I was doing.
Or he was losing his mind secretly at the same time you were when he went and noticed it was gone. He's like, shit, I hope this kid doesn't ask me all year about this game. I don't know what I'm going to tell this kid. And then, when you asked, you guys just came to an agreement, like, I got
Gentleman's
you.
agreement. We shook hands and walked away.
Yeah,
we're staring at each other like a 40-year-old man and a 5th grader, just stone faced, and both of us sweating profusely.
I can imagine grades slipping and him just making up for it because he thought you lost your shit. Oh my God. Dude, that is awesome. So I'm surprised too that he let you borrow the game that long. Like, he never asked for it back during the whole time?
I mean, Leif, I don't know, man. I feel like he probably beat the game, and then his attention span isn't like super long. Like it's particularly for games. Like for games, I think he probably just was like, whatever.
Well, at least you had that, because I remember borrowing stuff from friends, and a couple days later, am I going to get that back? I'm like, yeah, I just got it. He goes, yeah, cool. I want that back Thursday. Thanks. I'm like, okay. That shit wouldn't have worked when I was around. Like, when I was that young, they'd have been like, nah, bro, I want that back. But then again, that was a dumb thing with me, because I always played the games that we all had the same shit. It's not like we borrowed much from each other. It's like one person in my neighborhood got Mortal Kombat 3 and then everyone else did. Like, it wasn't one of those where, we had varied taste in games. It was just oh, what are you playing? Let me just get the same shit so I can play at your house and not look awful.
Well, my mom wasn't going to really buy us many games. Like, most of the games came from my dad, and it's not really like, in retrospect, I don't think it's because she wouldn't. I think it's just, like, I don't know, without getting like into like depressing shit.
Yeah.
But, like, I just don't really think what games cost then that it was really something she wanted to be spending money on.
Well, yeah, my parents were in the same boat. Like, I always got everything gaming related from my grandma in Texas. Like, it was because thankfully my birthday was in June and then Christmas. So like every 6 months I'd get 1 or 2 games. So I always had that steady stream of like, oh, what do I want this time? But the only one time I remember my mom actually buying me a game was Power Rangers on Genesis, which is like a side-scrolling, like, beat 'em up, and it was super hard to find, and she probably overpaid for it because it's probably like $80 or $90. But it was one of those games that you can beat in a half hour. And I remember bringing my Genesis over to my grandma's house Christmas Day. I was all happy. I went in the bedroom, played it, beat it, came out of the bedroom. I'm like, that was a cool game. She's like, what do you mean was? I'm like, oh, I beat it. She's like, No, you didn't. You didn't beat that game already, did you? I'm like, oh yeah, I did. It was really fun. And I can imagine in her head, she's just like, you imagine how much that goddamn game cost me, and you just went in there for a half hour and beat it. You know how long I searched for it. You know who I had to do to, I'm like, yeah, I could imagine that being the case. But no, thankfully, my grandma was super cool about it, and she would always pick me up like, just, 6 months, what game you want? It was pretty much constant. I got at least one game a year. But yeah, kids these days are all lucky. They have cool parents, like, dude, my kids, they got everything I got, they got. Lucky ass kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, so. And that's the thing, like, the thing about that is that, like, my Super Nintendo, I had 7 games. and I only remember what most of them are, and I'm not sure why I remember that number specifically. But when you just have that many games, and that's the system you have for pretty much like, you know, from when the Super Nintendo was current till like graduating high school,
right?
Like you finish those games like
over
a lot,
and over and over.
Yeah,
and over,
like
yeah.
I beat Aladdin. I could beat Aladdin for Super Nintendo in 15 minutes in my prime.
It's like a muscle. You could do it again. You just got to give it a couple tries. You'll go right back to it. You can speed run that.
Exactly. And like Mario World, I remember like wanting to kill people over Mario World. The special zone, man, that one level where you get the balloon and you got to float through it. Now, like, I do it in like a second, and I'm like, okay, like that wasn't hard at all. But as a kid, when I was dumb and bad, it was really hard.
What's crazy is like certain games, though, you go back and play as an adult, and they're way easier. But then other games, you go back and try to play, and you're like, how the fuck do people play this back then? Because this game is real hard. Like Ninja Gaiden and some of the Mega Man games are just insane. You know, thankfully we have things like Game Genie back in the day to have like unlimited lives or whatever.
Well, you did.
Yeah, because I was highfalutin, right? You know, I had the Game Genie and I had the books and the updated books.
Why is this an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice now?
I was fancy.
I had the Game Genie and I had the books
and the books
and all the video games. Yeah, you know. And I had Commando. This was based on the movie. It was starring me.
Except for, did they ever have a Predator 2 game with Donald Glover and nobody cared? They're just
Wait,
like,
do you mean Danny Glover?
Danny Glover. God damn it.
Donald Glover. He would have been a baby.
Right? Absolutely. So, oh my God. It's so funny because I remember I was a dumb Genesis kid, though. Like, I was a super dumb Genesis kid. So we had the one friend in the neighborhood who had the Super Nintendo, and we were always saying, you know, oh, we'll just go over his house randomly and play Mario. And the one random dude, I remember for some reason he was super into like this Super Bass Pro Fishing game, and he never wanted to turn his Super Nintendo off. And he's just like, bro, I'm gonna get these fish. I'm like, I guess we can go do that in real life, but if you want to play a game for it, sure. You know, that's the one thing. You know, there's certain games you played, even though that was a hobby, like NBA Jam, because, you know, not everybody can jump 30 feet in the air and dunk a fireball. So, you know, but I never got the games where it was like the realistic, like a hobby you actually could do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you say that, and I immediately want to jump to Tony Hawk or like Skate.
Right. Well, no, absolutely. Those were fun games and everything. So, oh, awesome. You're awake. Guess I got some editing to do. Are you playing your Switch? That's what you're doing.
Dude, I don't know how long this parenting thing takes.
Dude, I remember Tony Hawk specifically that's actually one of the things that got me out of video games, which is crazy. Like, I stopped playing games for a while because of skateboarding. You look real mad.
I don't like that. I don't like hearing anybody say they stopped playing games.
Well, it's funny because
no.
a video game stopped me from playing as many games, I should say. Like, I was more into, like, as soon as I got Tony Hawk 1, I was like, skateboarding looks fun. Let me try that. And then actually played it. And I was like, skateboarding is actually really fun. And then for a while there, the only games I wanted were the Tony Hawk games. Like, that's the only games I cared to get. And I didn't even get like a PS2. Like, I had Tony Hawk 1 and 2. I remember when 3 came out, that was more for PS2 and, you know, Xbox and all those. And I didn't even upgrade consoles at that point in time. I was like, I'm fine. I got Tony Hawk 1 and 2. I'll just keep playing those on PlayStation because I was skateboarding more than I was doing anything else. So that was the only thing that got me back into playing games was actually working at Game Crazy. That was the only thing that got me full swing back into video games and like loving them. So thankfully I had that job.
I got a skateboard once, and I tried to figure out how to ride it, and I was in my driveway, and I ran over half of a frog's face that was like a toad that was just hopping around, and his like tongue was like hanging out on the and I felt so bad I never touched one again.
Do you have like PTSD when you like look at a skateboard? It just flashbacks, like non-flashbacks, like poor toad just dead on your driveway.
Well, maybe when I see toads, but not skateboards are fine.
No, that's always fun. So then
also, I'm leaving out the fact that I just didn't have like the physical.
No, you were in good shape. You were fine.
Yeah, but it takes more than being in good shape.
Nah, you're fine. I knew
to kick flip.
No, I didn't. I saw you skateboard in the driveway, the parking lot of Game Crazy one time, I think.
Yeah, it was good.
You were real good.
That's when I did that that 360 nollie to boneless dark slide.
Yeah, I won't mention the Russian boneless story, by the way. I won't.
No, don't do it.
We won't do that.
That would reflect poorly on both me and your podcast.
And I think everybody involved, like Hollywood Video. Then again, they're no longer around. Who gives a shit? But yeah, we'll leave that story for the. I'll do a Patreon exclusive episode where people can pay to hear that one.
No.
Yeah, fancy. I'm not going to do that. That's stupid.
Don't do it. Yeah,
I'll make people pay me money to hear it, and then as soon as they hear it, they'll unsubscribe. They'll be like, nope, never mind. So you went from Super Nintendo and then hung on to that until Dreamcast.
Pretty much.
Why did you go Dreamcast?
Because it was cheap.
That's true.
And the games were cheap.
That's
and
very
then
true.
I was like, man, there was a lot of pretty good games on here, a lot of pretty bad ones, but the bad ones were only costing me like $2 a piece. So I was just like, man, I'm just gonna nobody's buying this shit. Like, particularly in Rockford, like nobody was buying any of this stuff. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy whatever I find because it doesn't cost me much. And I ended up with just shelves of Dreamcast games. I had weird ass accessories. I had a fishing controller. I beat Soul Calibur on ultra hard with a fishing controller.
Yes.
It was playing Siegfried, so it's just being shitty about it. But
we don't need to get into that. Just don't go into further details. You did that. That's awesome. Nobody else can say
that. It was kind of cool because you had to like, if you wanted to block while crouching, because of the where the buttons were, because it was like the analog stick and then a row, like a semicircle of buttons underneath it. And so if you wanted to block while crouching the button, you had to kind of cross your thumbs, and it wasn't possible. So the way that I did it was by holding down and the block button with the same thumb, like, because it had enough travel, luckily, that I could do that.
Okay.
But yeah, it was pretty good.
Did you actually buy the Dreamcast like when it went down to $100 or whatever, or did you buy it new, or did you just find a used one at a store?
I found it used, and I had to drive to St. Charles to find one. Like, they just didn't have them anywhere. And I don't remember how much I paid for it, but I think it was like $30 or $40. It was not much.
It's funny because that was the first interaction I had with you. Like, I remember you coming in and you were just like, that was the section you went straight to, and you were just thumbing through them. You're just like, do I got this? I got this. I got
yeah.
this.
And then, I'd been through like 3 or 4 stores the day that I came in looking for Lotus War.
That's so funny. Yeah, and then obviously you ended up getting the job, which is best job ever. It was me, you, and my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Like, it was 3 people. Great job. Many stories from that job, but I guess we could save that for another episode. Because that doesn't involve anything but a lot of pain and embarrassment. So,
yeah, that could be a whole thing on itself.
Yeah, that'll be the Patreon episode. There we go. We'll just talk about all the Game Crazy stories. That's what we'll do. And then, but yeah, we'll leave out the really bad ones. So, making people rap to get into the store, you know,
or like when the DS came out and the first thing that one of us did was take it into the bathroom to play wireless Mario 64.
When they added that awkward multiplayer to just because they could, you know, like there was no reason.
And I used it to just be like, hey, I'm pooping. Hey.
Not to mention, we just ripped open every single DS game because we could. Because it was just like, well, what else are we going to play?
Right.
Touch the Magic. That was a launch game, right? Touch the Magic, like that weird Sega game that was just like 2 Japanese, like weird culture, like rubbing people and things. Like, it was really strange.
Wasn't that the one where you're like lost on a beach or something?
Yeah. It was way too awkward. I remember just like everybody at the launch games, like there was Asphalt DS, and then there was Mario 64, and then there was like this game, and everybody's like, there was a picture of like a girl, like I think in a bikini on the cover. I'm like, that looks too awkward. Nobody ever bought it. I don't remember anybody buying it, at least. So
how weird is it that they're still making shit tons of Asphalt games?
Yeah, but now they're just mobile phone ports and just turning. But yeah, I guess they still make them. So who would have thought that franchise would have stuck around, and like other good franchises are dead in the water.
Oh boy.
It's all right. So
it makes me sad.
So did you ever, when you worked at Game Crazy, did you ever, I mean, obviously we had the fun advantage of buying things when people traded them in and stuff. Did you ever that's when you did you ever buy like your own PS2 or GameCube or Xbox or any of those from that way?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I ended up with an Xbox and a PS2 and like GameCube and like all that stuff. So like once I started working at Game Crazy, that was when like the fucking floodgates opened. And I just spent way too much money on stuff. And that was during the days, I think we're past the statute of limitations. So it's fine to say that while I was there, definitely did the like, hey, you're bringing this in to trade in. I'll just like pay you the money out of my pocket that you're like.
Oh yeah. Daily. That was a daily occurrence. The best was, and again, Hollywood Video and Game Crazy, they're shut down. They can't, what are they going to do? Come after me for my non-existent money, whatever.
Right.
When we would use the machine to swipe our card to pull cash out of the drawer just to pay the people.
God, like an ATM. Yeah.
It was basically an ATM in front of us. I was like, 25 bucks. Here you go. Yeah. Thanks for Burnout 3.
I think this needs to be clarified so that nobody thinks we were just like ripping off the
No,
table.
we were not.
Basically,
no.
Like as long as everything reconciled to zero at the end of the night with the way these POSs worked, like it didn't matter. So we'd like be like, I need cash. I don't have any on me. Swipe my card and then charge $25 like to my card. And so that would put us over $25 because we hadn't sold anything. And then you just take that out of the drawer in cash. And it, and I'm sure we could have gotten fired for it, but it wasn't actually like stealing or anything like that.
Well, the best thing is
the store.
We weren't going to get fired because the boss was doing it. Like, how are we going to get fired? Like,
yeah,
it was always on like the download, like, psst, real quick. Here's what you do. If you ain't got no cash on you, swipe, there you go. I remember buying, that's how I bought everything. I bought Xbox, all that stuff. I remember buying Guitar Hero real cheap because that was when Guitar Hero 1 was sold only at like GameStop. Like Game Crazy didn't even carry it at the time. And we didn't have a trade-in price for it. We didn't have a SKU in our system for it. So I remember just telling the dude like 20? Like, yeah. I'll pay you 20. And he's just like, all right. So, and then I remember hooking that up immediately and not doing any work the rest of the day. Like that was real fun.
There's a time, remember Matthew Clutter?
Yes.
Yeah, fucking Clutter. Nicest dude, but he always creeped me out. But he came one day, like I'd already closed the store, and like I locked up the door, and then he came to the door and knocked on it, and I was just like, man, we're closed, and I was like, this dude comes in all the time, like I'm not really like wanting to deal with that right now. I'm trying to go home, and he holds up 2 bags full of Dreamcast accessories and like games and stuff, and I was just like, come right on in. Like,
I'll open the door. I'll put the register back on. Let's go.
Oh my god, yeah! I opened my drawer back up. I got like a keyboard. That was where I got my fishing controller, some light guns, like a bunch of games that I didn't have. Like, and that dude was like, I looked at it, I was like, oh man, we don't even take this one. And he's like, well, do you have it? And I was like, no. And he's like, it's yours. And I was like, Clutter.
Game Crazy wouldn't pay a person 25 cents for it, but Mike will take it home for free and take up shelf space. That's what he'll do.
Oh my god, yeah. It was like Super Magnetic Neo or something like that.
Yeah. I remember like that was the other thing too, that like it sucked because stupid people would come in because Game Crazy never had trade-in prices based on rarity ever. Mm-hmm. Ever. They'd give you $4 for Chrono Trigger because they were just like, we sell it for 20. Like they never had fluctuated prices like GameStop would. So yeah. I don't remember if it was you or Nick, but somebody was going to trade in like Suikoden 1 or 2 in like perfect, like tall box PS1 condition. And someone told him no, like, I don't want you to trade this in here. I want you to go sell it on eBay. And
that would have been Nick.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have known shit about Suikoden at the time.
Dude, like, it had to be Nick, but I think Nick literally said, like, I don't want you to trade this in. I want you to go put this on eBay right now. And he did, and he got a ton of money for it or whatever. And then he came in and spent it all. And I was like, well, at least he was nice enough to come back and spend it with us at the store. But, yeah, that was always fun. So then so I left Game Crazy in 2006 when I moved to Arizona.
Yeah.
You left.
Wait,
you were still.
I didn't only know you for a year before you moved to Arizona.
It was like 2 years because I started Game Crazy.
We said that we met in 2006. Did I start?
You had to start in 2005 then. Or it was either late 2004 or early 2005 because I started Game Crazy in 2004.
2004 then, if I had to guess.
Yeah, because I started in 2004.
It's been long enough. It's not on my resume anymore.
Right. And not to mention, it's not like if they could call for a reference or anything. You know what I mean? Like that place ain't around anymore. I actually had that problem when I had my current job because I only worked at a couple places and they were like, we need to talk to your last 3 employers. And I'm like, oh shit, Game Crazy's one of them. Like, what do I do? I gave them Nick's phone number, like his actual cell phone number. I was like, that was my boss. You can just call him directly. And they were like, all right, I guess that's how we're going to do it. So they didn't have a
Did you tell him it's also your brother-in-law?
I left that part out. I was just like, here's his phone number. And I texted him right away, like, Nick, you might get a call from a job just verifying I worked. He's like, all right, I guess I'll do that. So that was a little weird because it's not like I can give him a corporate number because that shit was long gone. So, yeah, so I left, like I said, so I started in 2004 because I started right after I graduated high school. And then I left like less than almost 2 years later in 2006. So when did you leave Game Crazy?
Oh,
like a year later?
Know. After Chuck.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, you don't know about Chuck.
I don't know about Chuck.
So
I heard he was an asshole, though.
Oh yeah, he was the worst. He's this DM who came in and just started changing shit around just because he wanted to like do like power plays. And I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. You're dealing with like
the best
part-timers here. Like, I mean, if that's what you need to feel powerful, you know, he'd be like, we had like a rack up for our strategy guides and we sold that shit all the time. And he was like, take that down. Like, I don't want that there. And like, you know, it was just a lot of shit where he's like, I worked at Foot Locker. I know, like, I know how to set up a store. And I was like, okay, shoes and video games are definitely the same market.
No, bro, they had strategy guides for Jordans, you know, how to keep them clean and how to keep them fresh.
Right, exactly. And he was just the biggest dick. And it was like, and Nick had left too.
Yeah.
So we had this other dude, Chad, and he was just like, man, he's like this like alt-right dude now. It's pretty ridiculous. So, I'm still friends with him on Facebook just because it's funny to watch.
I like how that's your description of him now. He's just some alt-right dude now.
Dude, he's pretty far off the deep end. But
that's great.
So like eventually I ended up leaving and going to GameStop and like working there instead. But like, so the funny part was like, I got to like completely high road Chuck like in 2012.
Okay, you gotta tell us that.
This is gonna sound vindictive, and really it wasn't even that much, but it like made me feel good, so I don't care.
Hold on. Before I pause this, Mike on his interview for Game Crazy, one of those questions that you have to fill out, it says, "Do I hold grudges?" And Mike,
it wasn't a question. It was a personality assessment.
Right.
Said that I have a tendency to hold grudges,
and you said yes. Okay, continue. Go ahead.
There's no evidence for that. So like, yeah. So 2012, I see this dude, and I was like, oh, what's up, Chuck? Because he like, I mean, he was just the kind of douchebag, like, who was like, he was on a conference call and he's like, yeah, that guy's in the NFL, not for long, and like chuckles to himself because he thinks he's funny.
Okay.
And I stopped him. I was writing for a site is when I was like trying to do like a little bit some games journalism, and I didn't end up following it up, but he didn't know that. So I was like writing for the site, and I stopped him. And I was like, oh hey, how's it going? Like, what have you been up to? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm director of sales for like some like game chain that I had never heard of. And I was like, oh, is it like a regional chain or something? He's like, oh no, we're nationwide. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I've never heard of you.
Just stabbing into him like, oh, your job is meaningless. I've never even heard of the store you've worked at.
And I was just like, I was like, okay, well, I gotta go. I gotta go do an interview with Runic. I'll see you later.
like, bye. I'm successful. You're barely making it. You're at a lower, dude. People don't even know what Game Crazy is, let alone the store that guy probably worked at. Like, I mentioned Game Crazy on this podcast, and people go, okay. Yeah. Okay, like they don't know what the hell that is. They just know GameStop and EB Games. So
yeah, exactly. So like it was just one of those moments where he was probably just like, "What the fuck," and just like walked away. But I was like, "Yeah, you got him good."
In your car, you're driving home. You're like, "I got that son of a bitch. He can't tell me about a strategy guide thing again. God damn him!" Like just like you're just talking to yourself.
You can never hurt anyone ever again.
Did you tell 50 Cent Standy that was in your passenger seat that? Were you talking to him on your way home?
I miss 50 Cent Standy.
50 Cent Standy was the best.
It scared the shit out of my mom one day with that thing. She like came outside to like put the trash in the trash can and sees like, what is just a large African American male sitting in the passenger seat of my car, and she loses her mind. Like I heard her scream from inside the house.
I remember that was the best. You were like, because we always had the standees that would show up at the store, and then obviously people would call dibs, like, I want that one,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got the 50 Cent one, and we couldn't stop laughing at it because first off, 50 Cent had his own game, which was already funny enough, but then they sent us marketing material for it, and there was a full size 50 Cent looking mean as hell.
This was for Bulletproof.
For Bulletproof, right? Not Blood in the Sand.
Blood in the Sand was a dope-ass game. Actually.
It was, though. That's the craziest part. That's actually a good game. But yeah, no, Bulletproof, and we always made fun of it because it's just, this is ridiculous that 50 Cent gets his own game. By the way, kids that are 18, this was 50 Cent back with In the Club. That was the only song he had on the radio. Gotta preface that,
Well, the best part about that standee, and also the game, like, so the standee, like, it was like a life-size, like, cut out of this dude, head to toe, except it was only 5 feet tall. So it made 50 Cent look like the shortest dude. And like, so like when I put him in my passenger seat and buckled him in, so I could take
Safety
the carpool
first.
lanes, to make him look like he was like sitting there, I had to just basically bend his legs like backwards to get him to like actually look like he's sitting down in the car.
Right.
And is the height of a normal person. But the other thing that I remember about that game, too, is that he said that game was 75% accurate to his real-life events. And if you look at the back cover of that game, he is walking down the street with a rocket launcher. It's like, okay.
You gotta take a stab. Is that the 75 that's real or the 25 that's not? Who knows?
And it's like, dude, if you get shot 9 times and you live, that doesn't make you bulletproof. It makes you lucky. It should have been called 50 Cent Lucky.
Lucky as hell. One more and I would have been a goner. That should have been the subtitle.
I can take,
oh my God. That was
take 9 shots. No more, no less.
Right. Oh my God. That was the ongoing joke for a while because we always got that pre-order list of, the games that were coming out. We literally saw that. And I think all of us kind of just, that look when you look at something, you just blink a couple times like, am I seeing this right? Does everybody else see that 50 Cent? And of course, it was the number 1 listed game because it was a 5. It wasn't spelled out. It was 50 Cent. So, God. So you went to, what system did you actually end up going to? Did you actually, because obviously GameStop wasn't letting you do the whole awesome thing we were doing, buying trade-ins straight from people, were they?
No, but I had the main ones at that point. Like I had I had a 360 by that time, I believe.
I know for a fact you did. You had one before me. I remember that.
God, yeah. So I had a 360. I didn't have a PS3. Now that I think about it, but I had a GameCube, so I had what I needed at that point. But
yeah,
GameStop
basically
had the whole checking games out thing and all that business. So it wasn't a big deal.
Right, so you could basically play whatever. You just had to go get your systems. So at least they had that because, we had Hollywood Video to rent things from, except for 90% of the discs were all scratched. So you'd go home with an awesome weekend off, and then the game wouldn't work. So
yeah, I remember I beat was it Star Fox Assault? Right,
that gem
came out.
Yeah, exactly. That gem. God. Yeah. I remember the only bad story from a rental experience I remember is I remember renting, I think it was like Smash Brothers or something. For New Year's, I was going to have people over and play it, and it skipped like crazy. And then New Year's Day, I went into Game Crazy, and I literally got so pissed off because it didn't work. I threw the goddamn case behind the counter. I'm just so mad. I'm like, this shit doesn't work. Get rid of this game. You ruined my weekend. And then I went and worked my shift. I basically pissed off everybody, and I was like, fuck this. This is stupid. And then I was.
Why didn't you just come back and get another copy?
Because they were closed by the time I came back. By the time it was New Year's, so I was like, "Oh right, cool." And then after midnight, when we're all kind of drunkish trying to play things, and it's just read error. Then I was like, well, my whole New Year's is wrecked. I can't do anything about it now. So then, yeah, that was when I went in there and kind of got a little mad, but it's all good. So then
It better be. It's been fucking 10 years.
No, I didn't let it go, right? I hold grudges too. You didn't know that. That's on my survey too. My personality quiz. So then now, you don't even play console gaming. Let's just be honest. You just play,
I do. You just saw me play my Switch.
Oh, yeah, let me phrase that. I'm sorry. You play your Switch, but then you're all about your PC, playing all that PC stuff.
I'm all about Heroes of the Storm now.
Heroes of the Storm. I'm sorry.
That is the only fucking game I play, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Seriously, it's like, I'll come home and I'll have, I bought games. There's games over there.
I see them. I see a stack of games. I even see some Wii U games over there, which is sad, but it's all right. You got the one good one. I see Mario Maker.
Mario Maker. I got Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I got Shovel Knight. Star Fox Guard, because that shit was only $3.
Say that thing was probably given to you with a pack of gum. They were trying to get rid of that shit.
I got Smash Brothers. I got Wind Waker HD. Rayman. I got a copy of Skylanders Superchargers, but only because I wanted the amiibo out of it.
Right, because that was, oh my god, the amiibo. That's always a fun conversation. I remember you had buddies going out to get it for you. Didn't you have friends that were like, dude, I need this amiibo. Can you go get it? Or you would go on your lunch? I remember your amiibo hunting days.
Yeah, Nick and I both, we would find amiibo for each other, and then, and, he mailed me a couple, I mailed him a couple.
That's so funny.
But yeah, no, I got into Disney Infinity, collecting pretty bad this, few years, whenever Disney Infinity fucking started.
I remember that as well.
Well, this case right behind me is full, top to bottom, of Disney Infinity figures. I've got a complete collection now.
You have all of them?
Yes. Well,
holy shit.
I don't have all of the crystal ones, and there's that 25th anniversary, or 70, whatever, the fucking anniversary Mickey one that was only available at D21. I don't have that.
Yeah.
But I have at least one of every character. It kind of pissed me off because I bought the Vita version of the game for the Black Suit Spider-Man.
Oh my god.
And the Vita version just ran like dog shit. It was so bad. And they ended up just releasing it separately later. I was like, it's still kind of I like the weird accessories that you're just not going to find anymore. That's why I still have the Resident Evil 4 chainsaw controller for PS2. Dude,
you still have that?
Yeah, let me see if I think it's right over here.
Oh my god. I remember those came in. Yeah, those came in for really limited edition. They were super hard to find, and I remember they came out on the GameCube first. Obviously, GameCube One launched first.
You're talking, but I took my headphones off.
I know, that's fine. I'm talking. I'm filling time. And then I remember we got the PS2 version, and yeah, that chainsaw controller, that was, before when you actually had to pre-order certain things in order to get them, which obviously that's still the case now. But yeah, the chainsaw controller, oh my god, dude. That's crazy. Oh my god, you're gonna start. It doesn't have batteries in it to start. It doesn't make any noise.
No, it's still a corded controller. You have to have one
that's
of those
right.
extension
Yes.
cords. The start button.
Yes, the chain, the pull start. That's so funny. I remember that thing. I remember that just being so hard to find too.
Honestly, I probably kept this in worse condition than I should have, because this is only number 392 out of 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a low number.
It is a low number.
But
it probably would be worth something
anymore, or any of that shit.
Do you even collect? I mean, obviously you have a full collection of Disney Infinity stuff. Do you still have it sounds like you still have all your Dreamcast stuff. Well, maybe.
No. I haven't really started collecting things and keep at Dreamcast. I kept and collected because they were cheap, but I ended up selling a lot of that stuff on eBay and getting a decent profit off of it. But it was because I'm working shitty jobs, and things would come up and I need money or whatever, and I didn't really value it as much as I thought I did.
Right.
But honestly, since I've been married, and Carrie kind of manages all our finances, because I'm really bad with money. When it comes down to it, I am not good, and I should not be trusted with a paycheck. They should have like, even like when I was single living on my own, they should have just sent my paychecks directly to my mom. Like don't let me have them.
Right.
But now that like she manages things and I kind of like know, like, you know, we've gotten it down to like, you know, you have like, what's that?
I'm sorry, try one of these.
Wait, are you interrupting just so that I can eat one of your pretzel chips?
Yes. Try it. It doesn't taste right?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it
Why aren't they like crispy?
I don't know. I didn't want to throw them away if it was just my weird pregnancy tongue. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was important.
I'm sorry.
We need it. I know. I'm not. Don't apologize for that. That is important.
That is important. That's staying in. I don't give a shit. That's staying in. You got to know when pretzel chips taste like shit, right? You got to know.
No, they were bad.
That's
Go back
real.
to these saltines. This is my hangover food right now.
God. So speaking of that, why are you hungover?
Oh, yeah. We had Geekly Inc., which is the podcast network that I'm a part of. We did a 24-hour charity stream for International Tabletop Day, and that was to benefit the ACLU. We do this every year for the past 2 years. Maybe we did it. Maybe it's been 3. No, it's just been 2.
Okay.
But we're going to continue. And we raised $10,777 for the ACLU. So it was pretty good.
That's awesome, dude. Good for you, man. So obviously today's gaming now is Heroes of the Storm and then your Switch with Zelda, and that's about kind of where you're at now.
Oh, yeah. I'll go back to what I was talking about. Since I've been married and Carrie kind of like takes care of our finances, it's less about like I'm not having to like sell things off to like figure out how I'm gonna pay rent, like, because like that was just the kind of dumb shit that I did. And it's nice being able to know like, yeah, I can buy this game and not have to worry about like what it's gonna do to my bank account.
Yeah, like am I eating this week?
Right.
What am I doing?
Right. So I mean, in that regard, things are going well, and I've started to actually like collect things. Like the Disney Infinity thing never would have happened. But
that's
yeah,
awesome.
There it is.
No, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I know some people that collect. I only collect certain stupid things. Like I only like Gears and Halo are pretty much the only things that, you know, I have both the limited edition Gears stuff. I have the Gears controllers, the Halo controllers. You know, certain things you always... I still have the Kingdom Hearts 2 standee, which was my going away present. I still have that in my garage. I did not do the awful thing where I just pinned it up on the wall. Like, I didn't put it back together or anything, but it's just kind of hanging out, like, in a box. So maybe one day somebody will be like, I want to pay money for that.
Hope the humidity's okay out there.
Dude, there's, like, no humidity out here. It's zero.
I don't know.
It's yeah. I don't know. It's a desert. It rains 30 days a year, maybe, like something like that. Yeah. So, well, obviously, you know, I appreciate you being on the show. You've been a great guest. You're I don't know if we're going to have as much laughter on any other episode because, of course, we have more stories we could even tell. So if people wanted to check you out, you're only on a very successful podcast. Go ahead and pitch that.
Man, it's okay. It's moderately successful.
Out of all my friends who have podcasts, yours is number one. By about 30,000, but go ahead.
I'll take that award.
There you go.
But yeah, you can find me on the Drunks and Dragons podcast. It's an actual play 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons podcast, where we get hammered and play. It's part of the Geekly Inc. network, which is home to a bunch of other podcasts that you can check out. GeeklyInc.com. I'm on Twitter at the Mike Bachmann, BACHMANN, and you can follow me there if you want.
Yeah, you should, because he has good advice, like follow his friend code on Switch or get out. You know, those are the awesome tweets that he puts out and everything, threatening his fans of the show.
You know, and I tweet about my ongoing search for my father. Great, it's good. It's good fun. You can follow it.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That got so sad so quickly. We went from laughing so much until the search for my father.
I was talking to a buddy of mine on Twitter the other day where he was talking about Atlas games, and I was like, oh, I love Atlas games. Rand McNally series is my favorite. And he's like, oh yeah, I was a Nat Geo man myself. And I was like, yeah, my favorite thing to do is to look at it and try and figure out whatever happened to my dad.
Oh Oh my God. Well, Mike,
I know where my dad is. He's a good guy.
I know he's a good person. It's just funny to make fun of, right? You know, Don't worry, I'll edit that out too. You know, to not offend people who don't know.
No, my dad's not going to listen to it. When I did Fistful of Pixels, I had my dad listen to an episode of that. That's because it was like something I created. I was pretty proud of it, and he listened to it, and I was like, "What'd you think?" And he's like, "It's not my thing." And I'm like. Like, motherfucker, there's any number of things that you can... First of all, Dad, sorry for calling you motherfucker, but there's so many things...
In all due respect.
I guess it's the most accurate. There's so many things that you could have, like, commented on, like the audio quality, and like, oh, it was edited together really well, and like, you know, like maybe nice theme song, like, whatever.
Right.
Like, it's not for me. I'm like, I'm sorry our demographic isn't deadbeat dads. Like, what the fuck?
It's okay, because Jen's the same way. I told Jen, like my wife, Jen, I was like, I'm going to do this podcast thing. She's like, all right, whatever that is. And I'm like, and so I'm all happy. I'm all like getting the podcast together. I'm in here. And of course, she's super supportive. You know, she's never told me like, that's stupid or whatever. She just kind of was just like, her interest level is 0, but she's not going to be like, well, that's stupid. You shouldn't do it. She's just like, all right, whatever. And then, I launched the show. I'm all excited. I'm like, yes, it's on iTunes. And she literally looked at me and goes, are you expecting me to subscribe to this shit? I'm like, I guess if you want to, sweetie, it's up to you if you want to support me or not. And she literally just looked at me and then just put her phone down and just walked away.
Jesus.
I'm like, love you too. I think you don't support my show, but no, she's great. She just, again, it's funny because she literally had the same answer as your dad. Not my thing. That's pretty much what her response was. So. Well, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate you being on the show. You're a wonderful guest.
Almost any time. With caveats.
With caveats. I got to pay you
Check
next
with
time.
my agent.
Check with your agent because you're making all that podcast money.
All that podcast. I'm making upwards of tens of dollars.
Tens of dollars. All right, I'll make sure I send you a check.
Cool.
All right, guys. So that was the episode with Mike Bachmann. Again, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. I also appreciate anybody who is listening because of him being on the show. I know he has a very successful podcast called the Drunks and Dragons podcast. You could follow that on Twitter at DND Podcast. Of course, you could also follow him where he tweets out quite funny things. His Twitter is at the Mike Bachmann with 2 N's at the end. And again, follow his show as well, Drunks and Dragons. Again, I can't thank you guys enough for being here, listening to the show, following the show. If any of you out there want to be a guest on the show, feel free to send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast. Again, is at GUG Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate on iTunes. Hopefully leave me some good feedback so I can help make the show better. Again, thank you guys so much for listening, and I will catch you guys next week.